some rest.
Yes.
And have a read through the briefing.
Hang on a minute. I wish to offer, as she can refuse. I believe it could be quite insightful to her own condition. She joined us for the interview of Khan's daughter.
If you feel that I can be trusted.
It's my hope, believe it or not, that this can answer some questions for you, and finally, at least, undo the psychological damage that so far you have admitted to feeling. And well, Paul, for my own studies, to see if this creates this bond, this ideological sharing. After all, so far in our studies, it seems intriguing that so many sufferers band together, band together, band together, band together, band together, band together, band together.
This is Red Moon Roleplay.
Leaving Ellis there in her cell, and seeing Francis rush off to start preparing his equipment and making sure that everything is in order for tonight's interrogation, I go around the corner to pick up the weapon of Shirley, and then I absentmindedly look at it as I make my way back to the office, the observation room, and I try to go over everything that we have gathered so far to make sure I am as prepared as possible for the evening. And I also have a bit of rest. And then, as evening falls, I meet up with Francis again, and together we are about to start to head down to bring Ellis.
It's perhaps not an accident that Isaac Khan leans a bit into the shadows, trying to stay out of the sight line as you pass down the polished corridor towards a steel door with a keypad, or that he holds his hand quickly and touches Paul's shoulder. Yes, just a word. Just you and me, okay?
Yes, yeah, of course. You go ahead and see how they have gotten along with it.
I hope you forgive my vanity. I mean, I keep telling myself this is for teamwork, but I know myself. And here's the key card for the second morgue, where the remains are. And please change the code and make sure that I do not have it.
You don't trust yourself, sir?
I think in this investigation there will come a point for all of us where we realize that these things, they wear the faces of our loved ones, they use us in any way they can. They know our weak points and they're not afraid to use them, and we have to plan accordingly.
I look at him with a bit of sympathy, and I say, I can only imagine what you went through, bringing her down. I'm sure whatever she said was not making it easier.
It was more the things I had to say. But the less we speak of that, the more comfortable I would be to continue the work on other fronts. I was contacted by a relative of yours. Do you want me to get in front of the press thing, Paul?
We had a long...
I mean, only one of us can do it, but... I mean, after the events of this weekend, it's pretty clear. I have certain limitations. Do you want me to fall on the sword for this one? Do you want me to take the press?
I've seen you do that very well so far. I mean, I would not perhaps call it fall on the sword.
Yeah, but this
time
the press, something like that might be needed.
Are you saying you Are you considering to officially then let go of your position, but you would be staying in this operation?
Let's be honest, we've spoken to the same people. At some point it will be necessary for someone to take the fall.
Of course.
And it's gonna be you or me, Paul. Unless you can think of something else. I give it 1 day, 2 days tops before they need a name. But for now, take this card and find what you can. Don't lose sight of the big picture.
I take the card and I hold his arm a little second.
He's tense.
Anything else that I should know? Anything about her that you can give me?
I can give you... I can tell you the story. I can. I don't think you will find that she is in a state where she's ready to talk for quite some time. She did not stop voluntarily, Paul. Even though her hesitation made it possible for me to do what I did.
I understand if you have been left out of the loop of what has actually been happening over these years, but there was something that still echoes in my mind, and it was the moment before she dropped off that building, and she said something in the style of us being on the same side. Why are we working for them? I think she said. Do you know at all what that could mean? If that could give us any in you could give us into this line of questioning?
She was a radical as a teenager. She's a radical now. There are different ways to approach the condition, from what I understand from her, and she asks, even she could ask how her mother fared. She asks, why do you obey? As a mantra almost. She's obsessed by control, and she must live in a world, exist in a world where webs of control are... You know how sleeper cells work, you know how extremist organizations work. Being tied up in that, there will be factionality. There will be things to die for. Yeah. Or whatever passes for it. But as I said, it's important to do not forget the larger picture in the case. The briefing you did downstairs shows clearly I can leave this office to you and concentrate on making sure that there isn't a second one. This might bloat.
Very well. I'll keep you posted. And, hold off on the press for one more day if you can. We can talk more about that.
Pained expression wanders from the corners of his eyes down to his nose and mouth. Strains and smiles. If I've fought off the dead, maybe, just maybe I can fight off the tabloids.
That's the spirit. Alright, I'll see you later.
The door is something that must have been intended to be used for as perhaps a cold storage unit. Its aluminum is scratched. It has a small circular window in it. Inside is complete darkness. A small padlock key rests on the wall. The entire wall painted the same kind of lime yellowish that dominates this part of the compound. Shirley is maybe 10 feet away, looking outside a window on tiptoes, reaching down to his where his holster should be, and then looking at Paul, who has the automatic rifle taken from him.
And I come over to him and I hold out the rifle to him and I say, "Your weapon, soldier."
Thank you, sir. He readies it and inspects it, sees that you have kept it on the safety. And he nods and says, I was thinking about something. Like, how are you doing with policies like this? I mean, I don't personally like carrying around guns inside the office, workday practice and all that. Do I carry it around the morgue or just the cells? Or, I mean, it's not important. I mean,
as long as we have our specimens, which I see is the only danger in here, under control, you shouldn't need to. What we need now is to transport her to, this one that we have in here, to the place where I assume you have set up the restraints.
Okay, this is how I solved it. I moved the restraints in there and basically built it around her. I mean, it was really the only thing that could be done. You'll see what I'm talking about.
I see Francis and Ellis approaching with a rolling tray with Francis' equipment on.
Good. Also, like my lab equipment moved there as well, at least the basic stuff, as well as, of course, fridge facility. We'll be needing some of the blood samples.
Very good. All right. I hold out the key card to the door and I put in the code that I have been given and make a mental note that I'll change that when we get back to the administration.
Shirley looks long down the corridor after Isaac, who lingers like a shadow, then walks down the stairwell. All right then. He reaches in and touches a light button. Francis, your eyes adapt fast to the familiar gleaming lab light. And you understand why the restraints had to be built up in parts. She's not all together. One leg is held down, clamped by a steel clamp, wrenched shut around a pink, dirty, bloodied sock. The leg partially severed from the body. Only sinews and tissue keep it together. The cold clinical light makes it seem like the middle of a surgery in progress rather than someone in restraints. She's staked all right. 3 rebars through her chest. Half of the face seems smashed, pale, hardly recognizable. The arms distended to their maximum, held out by a welded pipe of steel with chain attachments wrapped around slender arms. It's hard. It's hard to see.
Is there any blood?
You've smelled it before, down the corridor, during the long hours of you being locked in. And now, late in the night, you smell the blood so much more clearly. It's dried, it's scant, there's not much, but it hits you. It hits you like the pungent smell of that first bad Scotch bottle that you crank open in the beginning of a long tax-free night on some ferry to some cheap destination in Normandy. She's rich smelling. And that it is a she, it's more by piecing together the information you have than what the visible evidence of these tatters of a creature can tell you.
My God.
Do you have to roll anything?
You are still very full. You're still full, and there's that screaming. It's actually more the screaming of shock at the visual impression than the animal parts. The human in you takes in what's there first before the animal reacts at all. And the human sees something she's not prepared for. None of you are.
I think I have my hands deep in my pockets, and very tense, but kind of contained, keeping a bit in the background, but also eyeing her very curiously and disgusted at the same time.
I raise an eyebrow. Granted, she is a horrific sight, but I think out of all of us, I've seen this before, although not normally restrained. Normally this would be the autopsy table, and that would be the end of this girl's story. I'm a little surprised, in fact, that she looks even worse than when she fell off a building. Still, I go to quickly check the restraints. I know that her form is broken, but I still want to ensure that every limb, at least, is restrained. And her neck as well.
Yeah, you feel that they have been wrought very tight. The restraints are more surgical steel and construction parts that have been bought by Shirley in the in like a hardware store than any normal restraints you have seen, medical or otherwise. You can see how they are ingeniously constructed with the precision of somebody who knows how these different bulkheads carry weight, and just by shaking it you feel the solidity of the work. There's no surprises here.
Good. Excellent. Alright, Richards, I'm going to conduct a few quick tests first. Then we shall move on to the second stage. And depending on how that goes, both of you, well, you can both handle the interrogation. If that's going to happen. I take out a notebook and begin making some very quick notes. And then I quickly, with the medical equipment I brought in, just very quickly do very basic tests, much like when I first received her body. I want to mainly see if there's a difference between the state she was in when she was in my autopsy room last time and now, other than, of course, the obvious physical injuries.
I look at Gabrielle, and then I nod to Shirley. Yeah, you could be at ease. We're not resuscitating her quite yet, if you want to sit down. Are you alright, Ellis?
Yeah. I can smell her. Feel her. It's but it's under control.
Can you feel that she is alive through all this?
No. I don't know. I don't know how this works. I can smell the blood. But she looks dead to me.
She sure does. She sure does.
Shirley steps inside and folds out a plastic and metal chair that clanks against the floor, sits down with the rifle on his knees. But you can see in his poise that he is very ready to sling it in with a fraction of a second.
Can I ask a question about the stakes? Are you gonna... What is that? Why?
Shirley looks up. What can I say? It must have been a hell of a fight, and there's not much down there to fight with. You see these two rebars that come out of the construction that holds up the heater pan in the cellar.
Wow.
He must have ripped them off, let her in a circular race. I mean, I found blood footsteps down there. You know, the whole thing goes in a U-turn, but if you know what you're doing, you can go around through a duct. Around, he must have fooled her around, and then gotten these rebars, pinned her, and then done that.
And somewhere in this, he was able to half cut off her leg.
But I guess that's what allowed him to outrun her in the first place.
But you didn't answer my question.
Yeah, I've seen what he can do with that knife.
Wait, stop. Guys, back up. You didn't answer my question about the stakes. Why is it...
Yeah, there's 2 metal pieces, one in her breast, like in her lung, and one down in her stomach. And then there's a wooden, it's part of one of these things you put equipment on, one of these loading. It's a board, basically. A 2x4 shoved straight into the chest. Looks like it got in through 2 of the ribs.
If your question is what the purpose is of this, Ellis,
Yes.
according to Khan, this is the only thing that can immobilize the person with this in this state.
So you think if we removed it, she would spring to life?
She would resuscitate, yes.
I mean, that would be, Yeah. I think that's what stopped her, Shirley says. Look at all these injuries, that's the last one, and that's straight to the heart. That's the one that stopped her, that's all I know, that's all I see. And I mean, you're hearing yourself right now.
Of course. And I am wearing a face of absolute incredulity as I'm setting up a tripod with a camera on to be ready to film the interrogation.
I just sort of click my teeth, a little irritated it seems at all the talking that's happening, but I don't say anything. I make some more notes, and yes, I just wait patiently for my first test to come through. Is there any difference between how she is now and how she was?
Very, very little from first glance. I mean, you have to use a suction tube to get enough blood sample out of her even. She's almost dry in there. But the blood is pretty much the same. That's just from the absolutely first initial 15 minutes.
Initial assessment. Subject, once again, for all intensive medical purposes, is completely and utterly deceased. No change from previous encounter, other than, of course, several new injuries to the cadaver.
The pattern of tearing and the lack of bruising indicates to your eye that they have been inflicted post-mortem. It simply looks like the torn up cadaver of a teenage girl. Shirley winces. It's just watching the procedure slowly, the silence, the clanking of medical equipment, the scribbling of notes, Francis' little sounds. It wears on the patients fast for the ones not involved in the process. Are you others, helping out in a specific way or trying to direct the process in any way?
No.
No. I would rather go through notes of what we're going to talk about with this person. And I start to produce photos and the things that we have. And now what we have here is a footage of Seamus Keen in a delivery truck delivering the package, which turned out to be the bomb, as well as other crates. We are not sure at this point if he is on the same team. Have we seen photos of him together with this one and Rudy the dog, Javaria?
Yes. Michael, the orderly at the hospital, he had these photographs. So there's the surveillance photos from outside of Blue Vision, and there were the photographs taken in the city as this Michael shadowed these people for whatever reason. So that is the only link you have. But then, what were they shouting down there in the cellar before the gunfire started? Where did those dogs come from?
Yeah.
There's nothing conclusive.
Okay, so I lay this all out on the table. And I say to Ellis and whoever is listening, really, Shirley.
I think I'm standing with you until they will actually remove stakes and whatnot.
Yeah. I show you this and I say, right, so it's from what we understand, Seamus is connected to Kenneth Wilson and Javeria as well. We have seen her famous red
jacket, and also you have the telltale backpack that she had, the bright pink and orange Hello Kitty backpack that you found. That one is also clearly recognizable, easy to spot in pictures.
And this black blur here, which could be our Rudy, is not clear on this particular photo, but it seems that they all worked as a unit. Whereas they delivered the bomb to Blue Vision, and there it was intended for someone to be incinerated.
But we don't know who, right?
We don't know who. No, we have only the booking of the name of the person who made the booking, and that would be a William Gilberts, whose last known address was Ruskin Walk in Herne Hill. Now, I've asked Anna to run that name with other clubs that could have been exposed to, that have been exposed to these similar attacks. And, yes. I don't know if this is a real name to go on, but what is interesting here is to find out who it was aimed for and why, and what their big picture is, what they are trying to accomplish. Of course, then there's the deal with Duchesky. What we will be able to find out there, but as you can understand, we're fumbling a little bit in the dark here, so I'm happy to take any suggestions or points, things that we need to press as this interrogation starts.
My only note is maybe to calm yourself a little, Paul. I, at this stage, have no idea if number one, she will even be able to say anything at all. And then number two, how coherent she'll be. I know we're all professionals, but I'm looking at you, Paul, as I know you are a father. I'm going to try and be gentle here, but there are going to be matters I feel might be out of our experience. You have to remember that legally, this poor girl is dead. And anything that may happen, you can't treat it like we're dealing with a normal young teenager anymore, I'm afraid.
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
Ponder that you actually, when you remove the stake, she will actually spring to life. Blood. She will probably need something to drink if she is what we think she is, because she is hurt and have been without for a very long time.
Yeah, makes sense, yeah. Shirley looks approvingly at Gabrielle, yeah.
I fully agree.
So did you bring any?
Yes, we did, yes.
You saying we can use it as a carrot?
No.
No, if anything, initially we're going to need to, I feel, administer it immediately. But again, let's see the initial reaction.
Well, it could be used as a further carrot, just to get it talking.
Paul, no.
Not...
No. This is... Oh, fuck. I don't think that is a very good idea.
What?
Not with me or anyone like me to do that, because that kind of pressure and extortion could lead to people getting hurt. I'm not talking about me getting hurt, I'm talking about others. You don't...
What do you suggest? That we feed her until she is full?
Yes, and promise her more if she cooperates with us instead of withholding it as a threat, because I could be violent if that happened. if I was hungry enough, if I was desperate enough. And I am strong. Stronger. Faster. We don't know what we're dealing with. Maybe she is too. Maybe she is desperate enough to do something really, really violent and dangerous.
Okay, now you're freaking me out. Hey, girl, you're seriously freaking me out now.
Yeah, I don't care, Shirley. I think
I'm gonna take the safety off this now, and don't get scared. That's just a precaution.
you do that, Shirley, but please shut up and listen to me, because I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yes.
And you can look at me like the freak I am if you want to, but please listen to me. You cannot use this as some kind of leverage or threat to withhold it, because without it, I am not sure what the consequences will be for me or for others
Very
like
good.
me.
Okay.
That's my 5 cents.
I understand what you say, but are you saying what I think here is that my theory how this works is that with the blood she would become stronger, but are you saying that she would be more resistant if she was not completely fed?
I would say that she would be more desperate. She will be strong anyway, but
you think she is strong enough to break these restraints?
I'm not sure. I don't know, but the thing I know is that when I woke up before the hunger was so strong that I wasn't really in control. And as soon as I was fed, I had more control over my reactions, over my feelings, over this weird powers that I seem to possess. So my conclusion is, the less hungry and desperate we are, and I hesitant when I say we, it's like it's my face expression is almost like I have tasted something really foul, means that we are less dangerous. Still strong, yes, but reasonable and not animalistic, driven by whatever it is that is this powerful, strong, violent force inside of us.
You're saying we try to play the nice game and keep her on our side?
I say we play the safe game and doesn't provoke her.
Because if you say... You also say that you feel that you are more in control of your powers, or whatever you call them, when you are fed.
I mean...
What if this applies to her as well? That I don't know what she's capable of.
I mean, Paul, and I look you in the eye, and there's a shade of the monstrosity in me when I look at you and say, if I am in control, I can fight the urge to rip your throat out. That is what we gain by feeding her and keeping her fed.
Right. I hear you. How about we feed her before wake her up then, so she's like all good to go and not in a psychotic break?
No, Shirley, use your brain. If I throw blood into her now, I'm injecting blood into a corpse. And something tells me, even though we haven't truly tested that yet, but basic science would suggest that will be just ridiculous. Probably just
I guess we'll see.
I back off after this. Hands in my pocket again. Clearly kind of... I said my shit.
Yeah.
I do look to Ellis and actually smile very briefly and say, but dear me, Sergeant Ellis, do you think so little of me? I already agreed with everything you said. Largely because you forget I have already briefly experimented on yourself, and I agree with your assessment that by your own standards, weaning you, tempting you, didn't seem to do anything conclusive. Not, Paul, that you are incorrect yourself. I'm going to be going for the measured approach. I'm not going to withhold the blood, but I'm not going to stuff her full of it either. We are going to take the measured approach. Also, Shirley, I'd appreciate it if you could summon maybe 1 or 2 others, please, just to be outside the door, and make sure this room is ready to be locked down in a second's notice.
After his talk to me, I look at him with something that is gratefulness and even tenderness, and I don't say anything, I just nods and backs off a bit.
Shirley is gone without a word, and seems to be glad to be out of the room momentarily. He pops his head back in and stretches the butt of the gun in and says, "Paul, yeah, just in case. I'll be right."
Yes, and if you would fetch, how much blood do you suggest then?
Francis, gallon, 2, 4?
Let's go with 4 gallons.
4 gallons coming up. Oh, and yeah, he stretches over the assault rifle to Paul before he goes out, making damn sure no one is unarmed inside the room.
Yeah. Right. And I go over to the camera again and check that the image is correct.
It's good.
Yeah, good. Right. So, where were we?
Also, a note for everyone. Again, based on Ellis and your own report, and some of the things I've been reading in the files I've received from overseas. This might be a little silly sounding, but I wish everyone to try and avoid eye contact with the subject if she does awaken. Look anywhere else, just not directly into the eyes. I'm drawing from the conclusions, if you recall, Alice, you yourself, and the command you were given, the desire to fulfill it. I've read in some of my notes that might not necessarily only affect those with the blood in them. It might affect some sort of mental persuasion of some kind, hypnotism. I'm unsure, but just to be safe.
Check.
Are you suggesting we put a blindfold on her?
No, I don't think that is a good idea. For the same reasons that I stated before. We want her calm. We want her not agitated and scared.
Strictly, you would only need an eye patch. Half of the face is a mush of wounds and cuts and bruises, and most of one of the eyes is gone, from what seems.
Well, I agree with Ellis on this matter. All right, then.
There are burns close to that eye, you see now. As if it's been pressed against heated metal or something.
Can I say something more? For the record, I don't think Khan is right about her being possessed by something. She is still her. Changed, yes, but she is still his daughter, and she still might feel a lot of affection and love for her dad. I have no idea what their relationship was, but do not assume that she is something else than she was.
I'm trying not to, but you have to remember, Ellis, this could very well be our first stage 2. I know once I believed she was the same as yourself, classified as stage 1, but I believe this now goes beyond that, and she must be a stage 2. She must be.
Yeah.
Well, to be able to sustain through all this damage.
She's still her.
With guards in place and Shirley gesturing at a large pair of bolt scissors and what looks like a cage-like medical extraction equipment, probably made for taking shrapnel out of someone's body or something. Yeah, he gestures towards the 2 nasty-looking tools, Francis, at the piece of wood in the breast. I did some thinking when I went shopping, and best I could come up with.
To get it out?
Yeah.
That will do. Although, keep in mind, if possible, I'd like it to remain intact. It might be needed again.
You're not using that broken piece of shit again. Now it splinters halfway through. There, look. It's thoroughly broken against the chest bone, so it's snapped in the middle.
All right, you're the military man. Have you got something on standby that will pierce the heart, I suppose? Maybe a good piece of metal.
Yeah. He puts a large Navy SEALs issue, a combat dagger, 2-bladed. Black matte steel, on top of a surgical tray.
All right. One last thing, I'm going to set up a funnel. And I begin to medically get ready, as best I can in the poor girl's ruined face, a funnel so that we will not obviously be giving her the blood bags to chew on. It's going to be funneled directly down her throat, whether she wishes to consume it or not.
It's an adapted forced feeding tube.
Very good. Everything in place?
Guess so. Shirley stands ready.
Right.
Back up straight. He's got the rifle slung in and ready.
Francis, do not feed her anything until I give the word, alright? I want to see the initial reaction and what's happening here. And I go over to turn on the camera.
I frown a little and I say, I agree, but we're going to wait no more than 10 seconds.
Yes, we are, Francis. When I give the word.
Paul, I'm not going to fight your jurisdiction on when it comes to authoritative stuff, but I am the scientist here. 10 seconds is more than enough to gauge the reaction and react to a situation if it becomes dangerous.
I've taken both of your advice into consideration. If she gets dangerous, we do not feed her. If she gets dangerous, we put something back into that heart.
You see me wrinkle my nose, and I say, on your head be it. I am going to nod to Shirley for him to do the physical part here and remove.
Yeah. He picks up the bolt cutters, cuts off half of the big splinters of the 2x4, cracks it off. The other part, so he has a couple of short stumps to work with. Takes out the shrapnel extraction tool and puts it against her small chest. Swivels 2 pieces upwards and it takes with it quite smoothly the boards. There's a small gust upwelling of blood like oil in sand soaking into her clothes. A sloshing sound. It's a almost square-shaped hole in the human carcass. It's not a place where geometry should be. It feels strange watching it fill up with that earthy blood and start dripping onto the floor. He sloshes the pieces down on the medical tray.
I watch it with wariness. I have the rifle next to me, and I'm looking over at Ellis as well.
Tense, but still.
I frown. I begin counting in my mind. 1, 2.
Anything?
Nothing. Dripping blood from a corpse. It's completely still.
I break the silence, slowly. This is what we had, albeit maybe somewhat more intact, after the first accident. What Khan suggested was that she woke up as a sort of just before death reaction to fire. Your lighter? And I nod towards Shirley.
Shirley holds out his small kerosene lighter, polished metal. The Semper Fi inscription on the side.
Light it. Don't get too close.
Even though the room is fully lit, brightly, it seems like somehow that pales towards the power of that single flame. Because where light and the presence of blood has not done anything, this opens her eye wide, staring. Fuck. Shit.
There's someone home.
There does indeed seem to be a reaction to the stimulus.
Shirley staggers backwards and holds the gun up. The eye doesn't blink. It just stares, following him.
Calm down, Sergeant. Keep it together.
Wait. Put out the flame now. Put it out.
He blows out the flame.
My attention goes to the eye. I'm making notes.
See. The pupil. It's slowly sinking. It's retracting.
Feed her.
As I see Francis taking notes, and then I see the consciousness, if that was what it was, fade away. I nod towards Francis and I say, you can proceed.
I observe the reaction. With the light out, I just start moving my finger across her eye. Is there still stimulus?
There. She caught the moment once. Twice it's sinking away. The eyelid is sliding down again.
Feed her.
Calm down, Ellis.
Come on.
Ellis, this is a scientific experiment, not a carnival show. Why? I'm going to make a note. For some reason, light stimulus made a reaction.
Oh, god damn it.
I don't know why.
Both you, Ellis, and Paul, you simultaneously get a text from Kitwara. We have eyes on Gilbert's. He's going out, and then a number of photos from your patrol. Who are apparently staking out his apartment.
I just text good job.
I don't think I check. I have my eyes on her, and I think I'm growing a bit restless because this is really uncomfortable, and everybody's acting like she's some kind of doll or animal, and I can only think that could be me lying there.
Yeah.
And everybody's so fucking cold, and it's starting to make me a bit irritated.
Shirley spots your discomfort and gestures a little bit at the door and makes the gesture of like, should we grab a smoke?
No, I want to stay. I want to see what happens.
I make a few more notes.
I'm fine. I just... Francis, please.
All right, Ellis, but again, calm yourself. Remember, especially in regard to blood at the moment, your judgment isn't as it was once.
I'm fine. I just... This is a person. Even if you don't think so, it is. And she's suffering, so please, if you wanna...
Is she suffering? How do you know? That's what we're trying to work out here. This is new ground in a new disease that none of us have ever witnessed before.
Just feed her, alright?
Calm down, Ellis.
Let
him, doctor, make his work.
I'm going to begin the feeding now, Ellis, but please.
I am calm. I am calm.
Thank you. Your opinion is noted, and I am going to experimentally begin a feed. Just to see what happens, although I make a nod to Shirley, saying begin slowly, and as he's doing it, I'm already, again, intoning to myself, uncertain at this stage in the corpse's level of activity, what even a small amount of blood will do. I'm starting to believe we will not be getting much from this individual because they are in no state to be interrogated, but very well, begin a sample.
1 bag.
Alright, he connects a bag and twists the 4 little drip feed regulators, and soon the things that pool in her body slowly start replenishing from the throat.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the chronicle No Man is an Island for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. Our storyteller was Martin Ericsson, and we were also joined by Anna-Karin Linder. The music was created by Lola Zasa, and the sound effects are from the fine folks at freesound.org and Sirenscape. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, and Julia for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. And remember, death is not the end.